Shalom friends, it's Erev Pesach right now, the 14th of Nisan. I want to share a couple of ideas about the spiritual work of this day and this period in general. So a month ago on Purim, one of the major themes of the day is Amalek, getting rid of Amalek. What's Amalek? Amalek is this cruel people who attack the Israelites when we leave Egypt. And their cruelty is really essential to their whole story, their whole being, and also their cynicism, and also the fact that they don't even expect to actually defeat the children of Israel. They attack us because they want to cool us off, meaning they can't bear to see that something good is happening to us. It's a part of us, and we learn that Amalek is not just a particular people, but our rabbis teach us that it's qualities which are inside every single one of us, which we need to work on and eradicate, or you could say integrate from ourselves with ourselves. So the part of us that can't bear to see something good happening to someone else, part of it's the same part of us our mystics teach, which is cynical, which doesn't see the good in ourselves or others, and also which is eager to resort to falsehood, or often resorts to falsehood, meaning it won't focus on the truth, which is this life is fundamentally a gift. And our mystics teach us that the antidote to Amalek is Emunah. Emunah is faith or belief, but it's also really something that we have to cultivate for ourselves. The root of the word is connected to the word for craft or artistry. Also, for the root also means to raise a child with great care. So just like a child needs to be raised with great care, and just like an artist or a craftsperson needs to lovingly cultivate the thing that they're making, and indeed their very ability to do it constantly, Emunah, faith or belief, is something we need to creatively and actively cultivate. And what that comes down to in the Breslov Hasidic tradition, according to Rabbi Nachman and his student Reb Nosson, is to really think about, and actually not only think about, but really act upon, what is it that we imagine? What is in our imaginations? Do we take responsibility for what goes in to our imaginative sphere, meaning, what is it we listen to, and what is it we see, what do we surround ourselves with, and so on? And then how do we actually spend our time being conscious? What am I actually thinking about throughout an average day? Where is my imagination taking me? What am I deeply yearning for and visualizing, right? Is it a kind of an escapist fantasy that doesn't serve life, or is it actually something that actually serves my mission of being the best version of myself that I can be? So Emunah and Amalek, these are some of the major themes of this time. We get rid of, or again integrate, the qualities associated with Amalek, this not being able to see the good in ourselves and others, for example, through Emunah. And there are two specific kinds of Emunah that our mystics talk about in relation to this time. One is Emunah in Chidush. The world is not simply eternal. Like the ancient Greeks believed the world was forever and will be forever, and fundamentally nothing important will ever change in the world. The world will always be exactly fundamentally how it always was. That's what the ancient Greeks believed. We don't believe that. We believe that there was a beginning of creation. You could call it the Big Bang if you want to. And that beginning happened because the source of creation wanted it to. The beginning of creation is with desire and with love and with purpose and meaning. And Rabbi Nachman says the world was created ultimately for rachamim, for compassion, so that there could be a give and take, a flow of compassion and loving relationship between beings. And that was only possible because the source of the world, the Ein Sof, the infinite one, was prepared to do tzimtzum, to pull itself back, make space for other beings, and then there could be a relationship between us. So that's a little bit about Emunah of Chidush, that we are asked to notice and to cognize and recognize over and over and over again in each moment. Life is not just the same as it was a moment ago. Life is actually new. It's one of the things that we notice if we meditate. The Buddhists call it impermanence. It's one of the principles that arises that we cultivate through meditation practice. We call it chidush. We call it belief in the hitchadshut, the constant renewal. And it's connected, the root of the word is connected to the word for chodesh, month, because our month is when the moon renews, and this is the first of our months according to the Torah, the month of Nisan. The Torah says this is not only the first of the months of the year, this is a paradigm of newness, that we are learning what it means that life is not just the same as it always was. That's one kind of emunah, one kind of creative imagination that we can cultivate for ourselves, is noticing life is actually new, even though it may not always seem that way. Sometimes we seem to be stuck, the same old things, it's not so simple, but we can remind ourselves, we can cultivate, like a craftsperson, like a parent, like a carer, that loving sense of helping ourselves see actually something new is happening in each moment. Another kind of emunah is a little bit more difficult to talk about in some places and sometimes, this being one of them, I think, because it is often misunderstood and misrepresented. It's emunah in who we are, in who the Jewish people are. And this is often misunderstood. And really, I want to say the misunderstanding is often in part due actually to the fact of a misuse of the idea and a misappropriation of the idea, and actually even a reflection of negative qualities or negative actions of others that we are often accused of something that others are actually guilty of. And I'll explain exactly what I mean. It's something that Rabbi Sachs, the late chief rabbi, talked about very eloquently. He explained how in the ancient world there were empires, and all of those empires ultimately strived to make everybody be a subservient part of that empire. And Judaism, he said, is a protest against empire, because the vision in Judaism of a perfected world, and we do yearn for a perfected world, is not actually a world where everyone is the same. Unlike all the ancient empires which we outlived, which all tried to make us forcibly assimilate into themselves, we outlived every single one of those empires. And also, very importantly, unlike Christianity and unlike Islam, because both Christianity and Islam, their ultimate vision of a perfected world is that everybody will be Christian or everybody will be Muslim. There's no such thing as somebody in their Messianic or their perfected world who is not a part of their ultimately homogeneous group. And that is something which we are often accused of, with the whole myth, the whole like mislabeling of the chosen people idea is often like people often say, like, oh, Jews think they're the chosen people, as if there's some kind of superiority there. But actually, we have a vision of a perfected world that's very, very different to both all those ancient empires that we outlived and Christianity and Islam. You know what it is? It's a world where there's a recognition of the oneness. It's a world where there's recognition of oneness, but there's also recognition there's multiple ways to that oneness. I often think of it like a circle. It's actually an image used in the Talmud. There's a circle, and the infinite one is in the middle of the circle. And of course, there are infinite ways from the edge of a circle, from the circumference, to the center. So you can be anywhere on the edge of that circle and get to the middle of the circle in your own way. And our prophet says, the prophet says, everyone's going to know there's one God. That's the Messianic vision of Micha. And everyone will call it the name of their own God. No one is forced to take on Judaism in our vision. It's not about that. So what does it mean when we say, for example, in the Torah, when it does say we are an Am Segula, which is sometimes understood as meaning a chosen people or a treasured people? How I understand it, how many understand it, is we have a certain task in the world. Every people has a certain task in the world. If you look at human history, it's pretty hard not to be amazed that a numerically tiny group, and by the way, the Torah, of course, says that we are a numerically tiny group and that we will remain so. The Torah says both those things. It's hard not to be amazed that this tiny group of people have had such a vast impact on the world. And I'm not saying this because I think that makes me better than anybody else, God forbid. I'm saying this with gratitude. I was given the zechut, the holy merit of being created through absolutely no merit of my own, as a gift of being part of a group that clearly have something special and important to give to the world. But again, we're not working to make everybody be Jewish, or make everybody the same, God forbid. That's actually really antithetical to our vision. We really embrace the kind of shalom, the kind of peace and shlemut, wholeness, that ultimately includes diversities and opposites. Rav Kook, the great mystic of the 20th century, really talked about this a lot, how people think that shalom is everybody being the same. God forbid. That's actually what Amalek thinks ultimately. Amalek thinks the antithesis of Judaism, and a lot of voices and forces and empires and thought systems and philosophies throughout history ultimately strive to make everybody the same. And they think that that's the only way to get to peace, the only way to avoid Armageddon is everyone has to comply. This kind of like totalitarian thought police. But actually, we believe, and we really work towards a world where there is a recognition of the oneness and a recognition that there are infinite different ways to be in loving relationship with that oneness. That is what we're actually working on. And so when I talk about Emunah, Again, before I talked about Emunah and Chidush, in the constant renewal of the world. The world is constantly renewed every moment, but also Emunah, that we have a certain role to play in the world. It's not about anybody being, God forbid, better or worse. It's not about that kind of hierarchy, but it is about recognizing that everybody's different. And again, I want to say a very, I think, counterproductive trend in a lot of cultures throughout history and certainly today is to try and make everybody the same, to try and negate the reality that there is such a thing as real difference, there is real diversity. And real diversity doesn't mean, God forbid, everybody being ultimately the same. That's very, very unhelpful for human creativity and ultimately for happiness and peace and well-being. So let's sum up. We are on the 14th of Nisan and we're going into Pesach, and this is the day, actually, our sages say, when the ultimate victory over Amalek is secured. How? Because we burn our chametz, and our chametz is our leavened product, which our sages say relates to the qualities within ourselves that we want to overcome, especially cruelty, callousness, not seeing the good in others, cynicism, not seeing the good in ourselves, not giving ourselves and others the benefit of the doubt and seeing them with a good eye, and being willing to resort to falsehood and not focusing on the truth, which is the Emunah of Chidush, which is the truth, which is every moment is a gift. And the truth, which is also that every person is different and every group is different, and we have a special gift in each moment to be ourselves, to be alive, to give to the world. May it be so. May we be truly liberated this Pesach. May we share our gifts so fully with ourselves, with all those we are connected to. May our people experience true liberation. May our hostages be liberated. May our sick be wounded. And may we be vessels for healing for the entire world. May we be of service for all humans and for all life. Chag Sameach.